We've got some beautiful weather here in March. I think it's the 13th. And I just wanted to share how I am going about some tree planting in early spring. There's a lot of soil life going on under here. I kind of scurried away because I just cleared the mulch away. This linear strip here of mulch was occluded with a piece of landscaping fabric for most of the growing season. And then I rolled it back, covered it with wood chips. The ground is beautiful. And so what I'm gonna do is dig a big hole here in preparation for a tree. Now, this isn't about how to plant a tree. I will go through a little bit about that, but it's about the idea that you can get a tree to grow way faster and get fruit much earlier in general if you don't plant the tree in the ground where you want it the first year. Of course, if you have everything already perfect, ready, decomposed, sod broken down, then yeah, go ahead and plant the tree. But let's say you order a tree and it's a little sapling, like as big as this little peach here, and all you have heading into the spring is ground that looks like this, or something close to that, or worse. It is better to hold off and not put the tree into that ground. Even if you dig the hole and get rid of the sod and mulch it, you can have much better success making a really nice, deep, fluffy nursery bed, letting the tree grow there for a season, letting the area that you're going to plant the tree in be prepared for a season with heavy mulching and weeding, and then planting in the second season. So I'll show you some trees that have been in a nursery bed and how I'm gonna take that tree out and put it into this hole. So I've dug a really big hole here because the root system of this tree is probably gonna be pretty large. See a full-size shovel there for comparison. The first trees of the season are the lucky ones. The first trees to get planted, because I'm not insanely busy right now and I have the time to really dig a nice hole that's going to accommodate the roots. I do this before I dig the tree, because if the tree is here with me and the roots are not, they don't like any air or any sunlight, any drying, any oxidation, and so it's very stressful for the tree, and thereby extension is stressful for me, so I want to get it in as fast as possible, and that sometimes means I compromise on the hole. So I'm digging a nice big hole before the tree is even dug, so that I know there'll be plenty of space for it. So this nursery bed here was double dug. You can sort of see the impression of, straight in front of me there's a trench. Sorry for the wind here. There's a trench, and then all that soil was dug out of there and flipped onto there, in addition to the soil in the row being dug. So it's very deep. All these trees are only 2 years old. Grown from seed in 2019, and then 2020 grew here. I am 6'2", and these are a few inches taller than me. And it's not just one leader up there. So that's a really nice sized peach tree for 2 years old. And that's actually going to be a little bit of a job to dig that out. But you can imagine if that had been planted with sod or with really any kind of competition whatsoever, or even just marginal soil, there's no way it would attain that kind of size. And let's check. Does it have flower buds? Yes. You can see that triple bud looking thing. That means it's going to produce flowers. So this thing is actually going to be loaded with flowers. If I left it in place, it could well produce fruit this year. If I move it, it's probably going to be stressed out and may abort the fruit. But the year following, it'll probably produce a nice crop. So third year it could, fourth year it almost definitely will produce a nice crop of fruit. And if I had decided to, if I was so excited, I just want to get that tree in the ground, in the sod, and try to mulch it, but then you get busy with life as things happen, and you don't quite get around to mulching it, the grass creeps back in, which it almost always does, despite our best intentions. And then you're not going to really be seeing this kind of growth, and you're not going to get fruit for 2 or 3 extra years sometimes. And I've done that a million times. I'm still doing it, but I'm trying to do it less and think about this kind of system a little bit more, because transitioning to a nursery where it's got everything it needs and it has all the space and no competition, you get so much quicker growth. And sometimes it can make the difference, not just between a couple years of fruiting, but it can make the difference whether the tree makes it or not. This cherry, for example, 2nd year old, the top is already above deer browse. If I go and transplant this, that terminal bud is going to explode, and it's going to be probably 12 feet by the end of the season, and it's off to the races. It could make it in a lot of competition. And if I go ahead and plant this little cherry out that was a runt, and it gets the terminal bud nipped off, it'll languish there, maybe survive the year, and it could essentially be in a holding pattern for the foreseeable future until it dies. That's high likelihood, in fact. So the extra year or 2 in a nursery bed is really worth your while. And so you may be saying to yourself, okay, well, maybe I'll just go to a nursery and buy really tall trees. Anytime you go to Lowe's, they have trees that are this big. The difference between that and this is that these roots are not root bound. They have grown freely in the soil. As you'll see, the roots are spread out like a hand, kind of going in every direction. And I'm gonna prune them back so that they fit in the hole, so they don't have to go too crazy. I would excavate the hole to accommodate the roots if I had time and wherewithal to do that all the time, but it's okay to prune back the roots. And so these trees will really take off, whereas a tree that's been root bound and the roots have been circling in a pot and it's been fed chemical fertilizers in that pot in sphagnum moss based mix for 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 years or 2 years. That's just, I've planted those trees, you know, I've gone to garden centers and bought them at the end of the season and when they have good deals on them, and they just languish, and I've never really had one that really took off and became a good, healthy, productive tree. Whereas these are in the prime of their growth spurt, and you put them in and it's really incredible how much they can grow in a season. Okay, so I dug it out and brought it over to this water so I could show you a little bit more calmly. What I did is I just cut the ends of the roots to roughly the diameter that the hole is that I just dug up there. So we've got a really nice sized tree here. And now I know the hole's already dug. This is gonna pop right in there. I'm gonna bury those roots, pack the dirt around them nice one at a time, and we will probably see fruit maybe this year, but more likely next year. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody to help me film, so I can't show you the whole process, but the hole was a little deep. I wanna have this union line right about at the soil line, so it's gonna come up a little bit, and then I'm gonna pack these roots in dirt kind of layer by layer so that I make sure everything is in good contact with the soil. And if you dug it too deep, no problem, because then you can just fill in loose soil underneath. Not super loose, kind of well packed, but you don't have to jump on it. So beginning to end, I would say the whole process of digging the hole, going to dig out the tree, backfilling, and everything took me less than 10 minutes. One thing I didn't point out explicitly is that I pushed the mulch aside into a ring that was considerably larger than where the hole was gonna be, then made the hole and put the soil just to the outside of that. So then when I backfilled with the soil, there was just a little bit of soil left on the mulch, and then I could push the mulch over, get all the dirt in there, and not really mix too much soil with mulch on top, because weeds can germinate in there. And you wanna have pretty much pure soil in the planting hole surrounding the roots, because you don't want a bunch of mulch that's going to rot down over the next couple of years and then expose roots. That happens a lot if too much mulch was mixed in. You get air pockets, too much breakdown in the root zone, and it can cause, pretty severe problems later on. You want real soil packed around all the roots. As I put soil on a layer, I will tamp it in with my feet with some decent pressure. This is still moving a little bit, so it could probably use a little bit more. And then on the last go around, I will stand on the whole thing. I'm not jumping to really pack it down because the soil is nice and moist, so it'll pack pretty well. But this is going to anchor the tree better and make sure that there's no air pockets around the roots. So anyway, this is just a reminder that you will gain 2 years by delaying a year, if you know what I mean. You plant it in a nursery bed where it's perfectly protected while you're preparing the spot where it's going to go. Watch the tree grow for a year under, the best possible circumstances, and then kind of put it out in its final location.